Hey, welcome everyone. Another Mastery Vibes Peer Sport Unleashed. Super excited. You've got me. You always get me, Robyn Priest. You've got Charlotte. Well, you often get Charlotte. Well, you always get Charlotte. And then we've got someone I met. I went to listen to a talk recently on compulsory treatment, restraint, seclusion, kind of human rightsy stuff. And Kat Morgan, you spoke there, and I was enamored with you. You had a way of talking about your own experience with that had me hooked. And I was just like, I would love to get you to chat. So welcome.
Thank you. Yeah, it's good to be on. Thanks for asking me on. I'm keen to chat.
So right now, you're sitting in Adelaide, Australia, just giving a
Yeah,
heads up for the people who are listening. And I
yeah,
think in my experience of working in different parts of the world, people give really similar kind of conversations about the impact
yeah.
of compulsory treatment, that restraint, seclusion kind of stuff. So I just want to throw an open question to you.
Mm,
I remember you talking about having that kind of stuff happen as a
mm.
younger person, and I'd love you just to share whatever you'd like to share about that experience.
Yeah, I mean, I've had various experiences of compulsory treatment or treatment orders and things over quite a span of time. But the first time I experienced it, I was a young teenager, around 14, and I turned 15 while I was under a treatment order in hospital. And yeah, it has the impact of that has never been good. I remember the distinct feeling of feeling, I don't know, I've heard other people echo this, so I don't know whether it's a common thing, but feeling like I was a criminal, like feeling like I'd done something wrong, even though I was just experiencing distress. And that sort of added to my distress and compounded my distress and that feeling of being trapped and just the really intense way that that added to just the distress and what I was already going through. Um, and it really, I think, put the trajectory of the rest of my mental health journey in a different way. If I'd been treated differently in that first instance, or maybe, yeah, hadn't had that restrictive practice put under me at that time, maybe I would have gone forward with less trauma. And yeah, maybe the rest of my sort of into my 20s might have looked a little bit different as well, because it definitely felt like, and it wasn't necessary, I don't think, to put like it was a small child, well, not yeah, I guess I was a child at the time, like in seclusion like that. Um, yeah.
I just like that brought a little tear to my eye of why do we do that for kids and or anyone actually. And
Mm,
like I really appreciate you sharing because I got like distress that still sits behind that.
mm, mm,
Um,
mm,
like what do you think? I mean, one of the things you just
mm,
said that was the piece about it didn't have to be like that. And I think people are worried that we're going to go crazy or we can't sort ourselves out or we're going to hurt ourselves. So
mm,
if it wasn't that, and look, I'm with
mm,
you, I'm a fan of not compulsory treatment or
yeah. Yeah.
seclusion or restraint. What
Mm.
do you think would have helped as a young kid in that, or even as you in your 20s?
Mm, I think a lot of the time people didn't ever ask what I needed or wanted. It was assumed that I would want to leave. And so then it was assumed that I needed to be put under like compulsory like yeah, it was assumed that I couldn't make decisions for myself. And in reality, I might have actually stayed in hospital some of those times just willingly, because I was experiencing some really intense things and maybe I would have wanted that support. But as soon as it was, you know, said that I couldn't make those decisions for myself, and as soon as it was made compulsory, that changed my whole experience of it and my whole mindset around it and my whole like sense of safety. Um, but yeah, I would say if people had just sat me down and asked what I wanted and what I needed, I think a lot of times there would have been an answer there that could have been worked with, and could have been, and I could have been maybe respected in a different way. Especially as I got into my 20s, often it felt like those treatment orders were just kind of put on before I had a chance to say anything. Like obviously there were discussions that were had, but it felt very automatic sometimes the way that I was put under those orders, and there wasn't a lot of nuance given to whatever situation we were actually in, or and just it would start to feel like I was trying to, yeah, fight for my freedom in those scenarios. Um, yeah, and I don't think that was the best way, but I think, and the fact that that was sort of being held over me, like totally changed how I approach those conversations as well. Instead of the conversation being like, hey, how can we help? How can we work together to, I don't know, keep you safe or make this work or help your mental health? It was like I was thinking, how can I make sure that I don't get put under a treatment order, or, have compulsory treatment used against me, because I knew how horrific that felt. So, yeah.
It changes those dynamics, doesn't it? If we're not worried about getting better, but we're worried about how not to be put
Mm.
in compulsory treatment. Sometimes I wonder if they kind of go against what services say when they're saying they're trying to support us. And one of the questions I always ask when I think about seclusion, I often think I'm already a little crazy in my head. So, Kat, one of the things that I always think about when I think about that compulsory treatment, seclusion, restraint stuff, is we're in our heads,
Mm.
and like we're all caught up in
Mm.
whatever's occurring in there. And
Mhm.
then we're put in seclusion, and the only thing we have in there
Mm.
is our heads. And
Mm.
it doesn't always make sense. So I know that
Mm.
sometimes I need to get away and just be in a quiet space. But
Mm. Mm.
when I think about the seclusion stuff,
Yeah.
it's a bit like a caged animal. I'm not going to get
Mm.
calm in that environment. Like, have
Yeah.
you, do you want to share any thoughts on that?
Yeah, I mean, I know that I found like, and I would like to say I've only ever been put in seclusion once, so it's not a big part of my experience, I guess, but it was a very impactful one. And it definitely was scary. Like it didn't instantly leave me feeling calmer or safer. Like it definitely did the opposite at first. And I don't think, yeah, it definitely made it more scary. And I remember trying to I think it was like trying to turn the light on, and I couldn't turn the light on, trying to open the door, couldn't open the door, and then sort of realizing that I was trapped in there. And yeah, it definitely magnified the feeling of being trapped. Yeah, not just in the space, but in my mind for sure.
Um, yeah.
That's like it's such a tough kind of thing. I know that people are
Mm,
doing it because they think it's best for us, but it
mm,
is that place you said, ask us, because sometimes,
mm,
most of the time, I think we know what we need in that moment.
mm.
Hey, Charlotte, do you have some questions from your perspective?
I was thinking of somebody I've known since she was 4 years old and struggled with poor mental health and also some issues around eating. And
Mm,
at one point, she was put into seclusion
mm,
and really never asked what she needed. And I was
mm,
thinking as you were talking, is all she wanted to do was get out of the hospital, do whatever it took, but never once was what she needed addressed.
mm,
And so when you were talking, my head kind of went back to that because, from the family side, and this isn't me knocking medical, but we trust
mm,
what the doctors are saying because we want the best for our family.
mm.
And and what would you say that would have us listen different, from your perspective, so that because sometimes I talk to parents about, have you asked for all the options? Because this is the one option out. Are there other options you can consider? Like, why do we stop
Mm,
as family at the first option and not
mm,
hear others? And so
mm.
is there anything from your experience that you would like to share?
I think I know that people who've supported me have gone on as much of a journey as me in terms of understanding that the way the mental health system is set up does not always support people's human rights. And so I know for people who love me as well, it's been a journey of learning that the options given to us or the way that things have been done has not always been supportive, and that people in my family have also found solace in connecting with other people who have had that experience of the mental health system and of being carers. Um, so I think definitely, I think at first it starts to feel really counterintuitive that maybe what doctors or what the medical model says isn't always the right way of doing things. But I think if you can like learn to listen to the person who you're supporting or the person who you love and just, yeah, listen to them, and maybe, eventually you'll start to go on your own journey of like realizing that it's not always the right way of doing things. And as you said, there sometimes are other options um out there. Yeah.
I really appreciate you sharing, Kat.
Yeah.
And that's that sitting in our discomfort as carers, as family
Mm,
members,
mm,
and holding space for exploring other options, but also listening to what you're asking or what you're saying. And
mm, mm,
we talk a lot about um, being curious. Robyn and I talk about being passionately curious in our peer supporter trainings we run,
mm,
but it's
mm,
also being passionately curious on the carer side. And
mm,
sometimes it's being curious and not furious, or curious and not scared. And
mm, mm.
and hearing all the options, or more than one
Yeah.
option.
Yeah.
So I have a big question, and
Yeah.
I don't know if you have an answer to this, but
Sure.
we do currently have a system that at times strips us of our human rights.
Mm,
If you could create the utopia system that
mm,
actually
mm,
supported us, like
mm.
what would it look like? Have you ever just
Yeah.
dreamt wild and big and gone, here's what I'd love to see?
Mm. I think there needs to be support for people before they reach a crisis. I think that's one big thing. Um, and I often have this thought that I would love to have a space that is peer run, kind of community center, drop in, has services that like people there who are, yeah, lived experience and maybe medical as well. But I love the idea of having a community space that would be peer run. I believe some places in the US maybe run like this. I've heard of things that are maybe a similar, but I love the idea of there being a community hub that would allow people to come and get assistance, but also connect to like community things and be together, and just be in the world and not be pulled out of it and told that they were different and treated differently or treated harshly. Um, and for people to be accepted in that space, and for people to know that, I don't know, things like what people might call psychosis or like experiencing a difference in their perception of reality and things, that sometimes those things, they're not dangerous on their own. They might have dangerous consequences at certain points, but they're not dangerous on their own, I don't believe. So it's just, I think, yeah, being able to have a space where people could exist and people could come together and people could feel accepted in whatever way that they show up. And I think a lot of times the way that the system is at the moment, it treats everyone who deviates from some sort of norm as being unwell. And I don't think that's how it should be. I think that would be my pick, would be normalizing more of this as normal human experience and normal response to trauma or whatever, and just helping people connect rather than being isolated. Yeah.
I knew I loved hearing your thoughts because that sense of community, that camaraderie, this is like not this abnormal thing. It's often like responses to stuff that occurs, and it's lots of people actually feel like that at some point in their life.
Mm,
One of the things I would love to, because, obviously I spend quite a bit of time in Australia, is I would love
mm,
to see peer-run respites where
mm.
if people are feeling a little, I'll call it wobbly,
Yeah.
that they could go and take a break, because there are places like that around the world where people can
Mm,
go and hang out for 7 days with
mm,
other people and just have that community. And some of
mm,
those places have some peer run group stuff, some it's just
mm,
taking a break. And
mm,
I mean, if I look at, many people get to go on vacation, even for a weekend or a week.
mm,
And, I've talked to so many people with mental health stuff, and certainly people
mm,
who get into the public systems
mm,
or are on, some kind of disability payment, I often never
mm.
get that chance to take a
Yeah.
break from life. And
Yeah.
I remember someone recently was asked by the CEO of a community
Mm,
mental health centre
mm,
what they thought that people with mental health
mm,
issues needed. And
mm.
this person said, well, what do you need for your life? You
Yeah.
have, you have
Yeah.
heaps of money, you take vacations,
Yeah.
you have a
Yeah.
nice house. Like, hello. And
Mm,
this CEO was like, oh, I didn't think about it like that. And I think
yeah.
normalizing those kind of,
Mm,
I think
mm.
they're simple things. They're not
Yeah.
rocket science.
Yeah. It
I think I
reminds
would
me
take
of,
it. Oh, go ahead, Kat.
no, I was gonna say it reminds me of realizing some of the parts of my journey and some of the parts of things that I found so distressing weren't even to do with my mental health at the time. They were to do with the systems or the housing position I was in or whatever it would be. Like that was the stressor. That was what was impact, like the fact that it's like we don't exist just as individual people in a vacuum. Like these other things can impact our mental health so much. And it was actually quite a revelation when I thought about that in terms of myself. I was like, oh, it's not just all my fault. It's actually a lot of different things interacting to create like a perfect storm or whatever.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. Charlotte?
As you were talking about a peer-run respite, I was thinking if we could take it one step further, and when us on the care side, on the family side, when we knew our family was safe and well taken care of, if we could take care of ourselves, because we need a little bit of support as well.
Yeah.
I was talking to a parent today whose child is safe and being cared for. And this is the time that she needs to spend on herself because she's a fraction of herself right now. And she just is not ready to work on herself. She's just like, no, I'm good, I'm fine. And I think that sometimes we need a little support too, because it's not always about, the person who's struggling the most. Sometimes we're struggling more than when you talked about some of your issues had nothing to do with your mental health. Sometimes we on the family side makes those into bigger issues and not intentionally.
Yeah.
It's one of those topics that's near and dear to my heart that we I'm going to be a little pushy here, and I don't normally say this, but if we throw an animal trapped or put in a cage, we call that RSPCA, and we go, oh, bad treatment, but we do it to people. I mean, not that we do kind of put people in cages and wonder why people get upset and stressed and push out. And when we get frustrated or we're upset that we're being treated like that, then we're given an injection to calm down or put in a smaller area. And so I know it's fraught with trying to work out how to support us and, like I know that there's the occasional person who thinks about harming others, and how do we manage that? I didn't say harming ourselves because I think that's a conversation with people, and I truly believe I want to be in a space to explore that with people. And if that's what they ultimately choose after spending time talking about it, I don't believe it's my job to stop them harming someone else. A little bit of a different story for me, but it's that place that can we have these conversations, hear people's thoughts, ideas, and challenge the system to stop doing things that if we were animals, people would be upset about. I know that's throwing the cat among the pigeons. Charlotte's probably like, I can't believe you said that, but that's my job. To kind of challenge us to think, well, why is one thing okay and one thing not? And we've done a podcast talking about that, psychosis versus different ways of seeing things. One of our previous podcasts was talking about the movie Ghost, and in that movie, it's fabulous that she sees something that nobody else can, but when many people do it in life, all of a sudden it's an issue. So I think, Kat, when you were saying that, lots of times things aren't an issue, but they probably become an issue because of the way we're told it is or treated. Yeah, I don't think there's answers, but I hope that we get to keep challenging why we do things the way we do. And in
Yeah.
truth, 100 years ago, they were bloodletting and different kind of sleep therapies and stuff and lobotomies. And we look back and go, oh, that was awful.
Yeah.
I think 100 years from now, people will look back and go, that wasn't as good as it could have been, like for us. And
Yeah.
I think it's continually growing and being. Do you have any last thoughts, words of wisdom, anything you want to get out to people?
I think I would just say I don't, I think for people who have experienced compulsory treatment or being, yeah, held against their will, it's not an experience that I don't think it's an experience that's easy to explain until you've been through it. I think, and I know that a lot of people in the system think it's in people's best interests, but I think, yeah, I think it's a hard thing to explain the visceral kind of distress that is caused me. I know that it causes other people. And yeah, I just hope that in future we can all learn different ways of having conversations around risk or whatever it is, to create some, yeah, less use of that sort of force against people. Yeah, that's probably my last thoughts.
Thanks. Charlotte, anything?
I really appreciate you coming on our podcast, Kat, and talking about compulsory treatment and, from your perspective. And I really appreciate you sharing with us on the care on the family side, what that was like. So thanks again.
Thanks.
See you next time.